On through April, where we have allowed the Christian community to come in and hear some very special representations of resources that they could use. January's meeting, we had Brittany Van Horn from the city. She's the city's event coordinator, which we did film through Channel 5, the Indian Nation station, and is on the YouTube station. And then prior to that, back in November, we were also very honored to have in our prayer breakfast the city manager, Gary Huff, who came in and spoke about the city. And both these meetings were filmed on the Indian Nation station, and at the end of the spotlights we have, I will give out that information if you want to go back and watch the meeting and glean from all the information that was coming in. So this year, for this month, I had asked for the fire department and the police department, and they have graciously opened up the door for two very special men to come in and talk to us. I'm sure last year, Brother Larry, you remember Assistant Chief the Adams, he came in and we actually got to play with a fire extinguisher. Well, we won't be doing that today, but he has come in to talk to us about fire safety in the church. So, Chief Adams, if you want to go ahead and go from there, you're welcome to start.
There is a little packet and a business card for everybody. I'm going to get those going around. To the front table. Just pass those down for me. So the front page on there is some interesting research about the history of fires in churches or houses of religious worship. Got two more for you guys down there. Still had some? Got you too many. That's fine. And I know that Chief Polschneider asked, when I came to talk, that you specifically had mentioned things like exit doors and candles and all those kind of things with fire safety. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to look over some of this research that I pull up from the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA. They govern a lot of what we do in the fire service. They do a lot of research for us and provide for us a lot of standards that we operate off of. This research is about 10 years old. It covers a 4-year period from 2007 through 2011. And they show in that time that we had in the United States an average of 1,780 fires in houses of religious worship, and they include funeral homes in there. But I think they said in that there was a total of 4% of those were funeral parlors. So the vast majority of these fires you're looking at are in churches. And they said they specifically exclude parochial schools. So we are not looking at schools. They look at those along with other schools. So some of this was pretty interesting to me. By far the largest cause, and when we look at causes, those are the yellow bars, the largest cause was cooking. So we think of candles and some of those kind of things, decorations, this kind of things we have in churches, but the largest cause was cooking. So think about that when you're doing your cooking inside your church. We all have some kind of cooking that takes place on a regular basis. If we have a fellowship hall, or almost everyone has some kind of cooking that takes place. Oftentimes churches do not have the fire suppression system like we see in a restaurant. A lot of times churches will have just a normal kind of home style cooking equipment. So keep that in mind. The blue bars, though, are property damage, total dollars in property damage. And you do see that with cooking equipment, we have a high number of fires and a fairly low dollar loss from damage. But some of those fires are where our injuries come from. You see at the top we have 19 average civilian fire injuries every year and 2 civilian fire deaths. And I don't know, they did not split out the deaths. They said the deaths are so few in religious occupancies, that they did not separate those out. But the injuries, a lot of those injuries are going to have to do with the cooking equipment. Now, the next largest of the fire, when we look at the yellow bars, if we put together heating equipment and electrical distribution, so the matrix of your building, your HVAC equipment, your water heater, your electrical wiring, your space heaters, any of those kinds of parts of your building system, when we put those together, that's 26% of those total fires. And when we put together their blue bars, 26 and 24, that is 50% of the total fire damage to our religious buildings. So the maintenance of your heating system, the maintenance of your electrical system, the maintenance of all those things inside your building is a huge amount of the damage that happens to church buildings every year. So don't overlook that. We don't want to put too much emphasis on thinking about things like candles and the obvious, and forget about things that are a lot more likely to cause damage, like a water heater that may be past its prime, or maybe we're storing cardboard or Christmas decorations in the furnace room, and we have things that are burnable too close to things that have fire or things that may cause a fire. So some of those audits, and I think most churches have pretty good service people, maintenance personnel, folks that are trying to take good care of the church, but they may need some help in doing maybe a safety audit and looking at, do we have combustibles stored places where they shouldn't be. It's not uncommon for a water heater to have a failure where, if you have a gas water heater, it ends up with a flame that's a little too big and gets out of the water heater. And that's not a terrible, world-ending thing if there's not cardboard and wood and paper and all those kind of things stored too close to that. So keep those things in mind. Candles are on there. They were 4% of our total fires, and they were 5% of our total property damage. So that's not something to be forgotten about. And lightning actually made that list. And there are some recommendations if you're concerned about lightning. Churches have some reasons that they're tall, usually one of the taller structures in the area where they are. And if we have a lightning strike, you can have a fire burn most days of the week after hours at nighttime. That can go undetected for a while. So those are some things on there I just wanted you guys to kind of look at, think about a little bit. We don't want to forget about candles and being safe with those, and using caution when we set up our decorations for different holidays. Certainly don't want to have paper and cardboard, burnable stuff that's too close to those flammable decorations too close to the candles, but that's not generally our largest issue as far as damage to the building goes. Now, as far as being safe with our people inside the church, the next page, and this is really exciting stuff, this is a copy right out of the Ohio Fire Code. And section 404 talks about fire safety, evacuation, and lockdown plans. And I'm going to completely glaze over lockdown plans because I assume that you're going to speak with us a little bit about that this evening. If you would like to put together a fire safety and evacuation plan for your church, this paper, front and back, gives you some of the high points of what the Ohio Fire Code says should be included in your fire safety and evacuation plans. And it's just a good place to start. Some things to think of when you're putting your plan together. So, how do our people get out? What are their egress routes? Procedures for, in this case they say employees, but who is going to remain to operate critical equipment? Do we have candles burning that we need to put out? Do we have HVAC equipment that we need to shut down? Does somebody need to go and turn off breakers? If we have a problem in the kitchen, who's responsible for shutting off breakers, and who does that? Procedures for assisted rescue for persons unable to use the general means of egress unassisted. So here I'm thinking about, let's see, what's the church at the corner of Green Street and Downing? Is that St. Paul's? It has the noodles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Their sanctuary is on the second floor in that building. So if you think of anyone in that building that may be in a wheelchair or using a walker, if they would have a fire there, it's pretty important that we know who is going to help those folks to be able to get out of that space. Not every church has a sanctuary on the second floor. So in many cases, the family members that came with that person can help them. But if we're relying on, taking a long time to get them into that sanctuary, we need to make sure we have our plans for how we get those folks out. Procedures for accounting for, here they say again, employees and occupants. I think most churches at some point in your services are doing a head count of the people that are there. Is somebody set up to do a head count when we come out? You know, when we come out of the building, when we have a fire drill or we have an actual fire. Is that something that could not, wouldn't be too tough to set up if we had a plan for it? Identification and assignment of personnel responsible for rescue or emergency medical aid. If you have personnel who are EMTs or nurses who are able to help some of your folks, preferred and alternate means of notifying occupants of a fire or emergency. So if everybody's in a sanctuary, that's not too big of a deal. But if we're in this building like we are here tonight and there's a fire in this room, how do I alert the folks that are in the rest of this building? Because I think they're having a bingo get together somewhere and it looked like there was other meetings going on. Is there a means in the building to be able to notify other folks? And in some buildings you'll have a fire alarm system where we have the boxes where you can pull the fire alarm down. In some buildings we may just need to have a plan for, somebody needs to go to all these areas where things are going on and make it known that there's an issue. Preferred and alternate means of reporting fires and other emergencies to the fire department. So whether that's using the fire alarm system or whether it's somebody calling 911 and having that cell phone ready to go. So there's some ideas for fire safety and evacuation plans for your church. The next section there, and I'm going to, if anybody has questions when I get kind of to the end here, I'll give you all the opportunity for that. But this whole next section, I'm not going to cover anything in this booklet at all. But you take this with you, and there are some great ideas in here. I didn't come up with any of this. I found this from this group called the Church Mutual Insurance Company. I have no idea who they are, where they come from, but this was a pretty good checklist in here that gives you some things to look at, some points to ponder if your safety group in your church wants to look over kind of a safety audit for your church building. Now, the last 2 pages on here, I do want to touch on those because we talked about making sure your building was safe from fire, and we talked about making sure the people in your church building are safe from fire. But if you as a congregation wants to ensure the safety of your congregation from fire at all times, the biggest step and the best step you can take is to make sure that everyone in your congregation has working smoke alarms in their home. We saw that we had an average of 2 people that are killed in church fires every year. We have over 3,000 in the United States that die in home fires. And the vast majority of those do not have working smoke alarms in their home. It's not to say that a smoke alarm completely prevents you from dying in a home fire, but it greatly reduces your chances of dying in a home fire. So I've included in there a flyer from the American Red Cross, and this guy here, this phone number is your Troy office of the American Red Cross, 332-1414. And if you dial that number and give them a name and an address and a phone number, they will schedule someone to come to that house and install a smoke alarm that has a 10-year life battery in it that never needs the battery changed in it. And they will do they want to do a little education with the folks when they put that up. There's no cost to that. So there's really very, very little excuse for anyone to not have a good working smoke alarm. And I would ask that maybe you consider that as your folks at your church are going out to do outreach to some of your church members or your shut-ins or folks who may not be as fortunate, that maybe put that on your list that they have good working smoke alarms. And when I say good working smoke alarms, that doesn't just mean that there's one hanging on the ceiling. First of all, it needs to work. If you push the button, does it work? Does it have a good battery on it? And secondly, is it less than 10 years old? If those smoke alarms are over 10 years old, they need to be replaced. And Red Cross will come and replace those for free without any question. On a kind of side note with that, carbon monoxide alarms, if someone has a concern about carbon monoxide, the fire department does have some carbon monoxide alarms. We can help with that. But I really like to stress those smoke alarms for the Red Cross. That last page, if you really want to do something to help, on April 16, the Red Cross is hosting, and I think this is the 4th time we've done this in Piqua, what we call a smoke alarm blitz, where we're going to go out into a community and they're going to put volunteers together and knock on doors and offer to put up smoke alarms. Actually go out and outreach into the community in Piqua. We've done several different communities around town. We've put up hundreds of smoke alarms this way, and we really find a lot of folks who just do not have good working smoke alarms in their home. Red Cross pays for the alarms. They provide all the liability waivers for that. If you have someone who says, well, I don't want to climb on a ladder, but I can carry a clipboard and fill out waiver forms, we have a volunteer job for them. If you have someone that says, I don't really like doing paperwork and talking to people, but I don't mind getting on a ladder and running a screw gun, we have volunteer work for them. You know, this is an opportunity, and the more volunteers we have for this, the more we can do. We're going to do that one Saturday morning. We usually meet up between 8 and 9 in the morning. We go out just until lunchtime, a few hours, then meet back up and have pizza afterward, and that's the end of it. It's a really easy way to put a little bit of volunteer time in for that. Is there anybody here from the Apostolic Church on Covington Avenue? I've reached out to them. We're planning on operating in the Covington Avenue, kind of on the, we had the fire there in Piqua Village earlier, just about a couple weeks ago, and we'd like to work in that area and down the hill. So does anybody else have a church in that area? I know I reached out to them already. I haven't heard back.
We're out at the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Are you on 185?
Yeah.
So we're hoping to find somewhere we can set up kind of in that Covington Avenue area, but that would be an option if we don't find something else there. But I mean, honestly, where we're at there, we could just go to the fire station. We just really like to be somewhere really close. I know from that Apostolic Church, we could walk to most places we want to be. And I've got Jason Hughes as the guy I deal with there with their school,
Right.
And I'll reach out to him again, but I haven't heard back from him yet. So and all that stuff, and I know I need to move on so you guys can finish your meeting up and leave time for our law enforcement friends. Does anybody have any questions about the stuff I had here? You should have my business card. Yes, sir.
I think it is just Miami County or just Piqua or?
That is the Northern Miami Valley chapter of the American Red Cross, the phone number. Now, the program, they call it the Sound the Alarm, Save a Life. That is nationwide with the American Red Cross.
Okay.
So anywhere you go, you're supposed to find a Red Cross chapter that covers that area. Of course, some areas are more aggressive than others. Mark Cantrell is the emergency coordinator for our area in the Northern Miami Valley. And Mark is very aggressive about smoke alarms, and he wants to see people have smoke alarms, and he puts some of these together where we go out with volunteers and actually knock on doors. Some areas you may not find volunteers who are quite that assertive with that, but even if you have family in another state, if they look at their local chapter of the Red Cross, the phone number is just for the Troy office, though.
Does that usually run at the same time all across the country? They have their own time?
So that's a program that runs 365 days a year. I mean, if you can reach somebody there, they'll put you on the list, and usually within a week or two, they get up, put those smoke alarms up. This spring time frame is kind of when they have a big push, for that. So, just like soup kitchens seem to get more popular around Christmas time, there's a need for that all year, right? So their Red Cross is always offering smoke alarms. You call that number anytime their office is open, and they'll get you on the list as soon as they've got volunteers available for that. But if you have folks in your congregation who are willing to help with that, they can actually set you up with the alarms to be able to go out and do that. And train you to be able to put the alarms up and do the educational piece with that. So it's a wonderful project. If somebody wants a big project for your church, but even if you just want to say, hey, there's a few of us that want to come and help on the 16th of April, we'd love to have you. Because that's a big help for that.
I've been taking you in care if these are duplicated.
Nope, absolutely not. You can duplicate those as many times as you want. And that's both of those are just forms that I made up. This one here I just made up today. That's my business card. Load up on there so you all had my phone number and email.
Looks good.
And this guy here, I would recommend you take that back and make copies of it and hang it up on your bulletin board so that everybody can see it. Yes?
How long is a carbon monoxide detector good for?
So usually carbon monoxide detectors don't last as long as smoke alarms. Maybe as few as 6 years. Maybe if no more than 10.
Okay.
If they make it to 10, but usually what happens with a CO alarm is they'll start chirping, and you'll hear that, not the alarm, but that every 30 seconds you get that chirp that sounds like a low battery alarm, and it doesn't go away when you put a new battery in it. If that alarm is 5, 6, 7 years old, it probably just needs to be replaced.
I just thought that was something we might want to know.
Absolutely. Yes?
Since Wally Haney has retired, where do you suggest we get our fire extinguisher service?
So if you call Wally's phone number, if you still have that same 773 phone number, it rings now to Mega City. Mega City has an office, I think, in Huber Heights and one in Wapak, and they have folks that work in this area, and they took over all of his accounts. Now, that's not me saying that Mega City is a perfect company and you should put all your business with them, but they are a licensed fire extinguisher company, and they took over his business, and they are happy to work here in Piqua. There are several other companies. If you do a quick internet search for fire extinguisher service in the Dayton area, you'll find lots of companies that can do that. But even his phone number still rings to a company that will come and do extinguishers for you. There's not anybody in Piqua that does that anymore. If you're just home extinguishers, oftentimes we say, those have a 12-year lifespan, you throw them away and go buy a new one. Commercial extinguishers, if you actually spent more than $100 and bought a good commercial extinguisher, yeah, we'll get a hold of somebody to service those when they're due for it. There's a ton of stuff we could talk about. I love fire safety, and I could talk for 4 hours, but you guys have got to. Do you have a question down here?
No.
All right.
Anybody else have any questions, concerns, or comments for Lee? Your name is widely for Fire Chief Lee.
Do you guys have any, like, in the old days, when I first started nursing, we used to have video films of actual fires, like in nursing homes. Do you guys ever have those anymore?
As far as like a video,
A film or a video, I guess. Like this has been years ago.
sure. And there's so it depends on what you want to see. And I didn't.
This, I mean, they had this, I mean, actual booze crews. I mean, they showed.
Yeah, and I didn't do that for tonight. I am 100% positive that if I would look on YouTube, there are pictures of church fires, and there's anything you want to find. And I know there was a time there where, and I think before we really understood, I'm going to get a little bit probably too philosophical here, but I think where you're talking about, and I've heard this, we tried to scare people out of, fire safety by saying, look at these terrible burned up bodies and how awful this is. And we've learned that that kind of trauma isn't usually beneficial to the vast majority of people that are watching these videos.
It's like that with fire.
It's still oftentimes effective to see those, and you are hard pressed to find a firefighter that doesn't, and a police officer that sometimes doesn't tell stories about things that they've seen and try to explain. When we have friends and family members that refuse to wear their seatbelts, and they say, well, I heard of this guy one time that wore a seatbelt and got hurt real bad because he wearing a seatbelt. I say, you know what? If I've seen 100 car crashes with people injured, I don't know, maybe 5 of the people might have been better off without their seatbelt on, but the other 95, they're always better off with their seatbelt on. So, and you can't, it doesn't matter how gruesome you want to explain some of those things to people, it just never gets through. If they're dead set, they want to do that. Storing combustible materials in a furnace room or in a mechanical room, something like that. If somebody's got, well, I've always stored I break down my cardboard boxes and I shove them in there between the wall and the water heater, and if they've always done that way, it's going to be hard for me to convince them otherwise. Yeah, but we can try, and we can talk about statistics for that stuff. That's why I wanted that first page. I thought that page of statistics was pretty interesting. A lot of folks, if you say, well, what's the highest likelihood of having a fire at a church? Oh, well, candles and decorations. Yeah, it made the list, but it's nowhere near the top.
Watch out for a bad cook smell.
And that reflects exactly like it does at home fires.
Yeah.
We're talking about residential fires. Residential fires, the largest cause of residential fires is cooking, but the biggest time that people die from residential fires is at nighttime. When our smoke alarms, if we don't have smoke alarms, they don't wake us up, and people just never wake up from their fires. Cooking fires are not the most deadly, but they are the most prevalent.
Okay. Well, thank you, Fire Chief Nevada. I really appreciate what you've done.
You're quite welcome.
Let's Next, we are honored to have our school and community resource officer, Officer Chris Walters. And if he would come up and talk about what the Piqua has to offer through our resources. He deals with the community and the kids and schools a lot, so he knows pretty much about that kind of stuff.
Well, I want to thank you first for saving the best for last. Like Paul said, my name is Officer Chris Walters with the Piqua Police Department. I recently just became the school resource officer and community resource officer. And one thing that we do as the community resource officer is we provide training, safety training for not only the schools, but for businesses and churches as far as ALICE goes, or lockdown training. Has anybody in here had ALICE or lockdown training, maybe at their business or church or anything? So unfortunately, this is becoming a more common thing that we have to deal with. I didn't print out anything with the stats to give you guys, and it was for one reason, because it changes every day. Those stats with these school shootings and with these business shootings and church shootings change every day. So every time I go on there to print something off, I feel like the number just keeps rising and growing, and it gets out of control. So anybody with the internet can pick this up and look on there and get the numbers. And I think if you haven't already done that, you would find that the numbers are growing every year, and it's alarming. So one of the things that I do personally, is I come to the school. There's a preschool right here, if you guys didn't know that. I show up there, I go over, we do drills, we do quarterly drills that the state mandates that the school does, and those are lockdown drills. So we will give scenarios to the schools, and the schools will have to perform their lockdown drills. So just like Mr. Adams said, this is becoming kind of a procedural thing. Having a plan in place is the biggest thing. This is becoming just like a fire drill or a tornado drill. This is becoming very common for us nowadays. We'll come into the schools, we'll come into the churches, we come into the buildings. There's a lot of different things that we do. Usually we can put on like an 8-hour, 6-hour, or 4-hour presentation. We'll have stats, we'll go over all that stuff, and then we'll go over helping you guys put a plan in place, or helping the school put a plan in place on what to do if something, if a threat would enter the building. It doesn't necessarily have to be a shooting, but it's just a threat in general. There's a lot of good information in there. We take it even as far as you guys want to train, as far as anybody wants to train. We set people down in a room, and we say, all right, an intruder enters this door, what are we going to do? And getting a lot of different perspectives on everybody's opinions of what happens when somebody comes in that door is different. And the biggest thing is having a plan in place. A lot of the schools and stuff that I go into, when I sit down with these teachers and we say, all right, what are you going to do when an intruder comes in the door? And they're like, I don't know, I haven't thought about that. So that's just kind of what we're awareness and what we're trying to prevent. If it's you can get out of a window, if you can pick something up and throw it at them. A lot of these things is just good information. It seems like common sense, but when you're put under that kind of pressure, you never know how you're going to react. So that's just something that we offer at the police department. It's free for the Piqua community. If it's something, we can even do the whole congregation, or we could do, the majority is we just do the staff of the churches. Is there any, do you guys have security in your churches now? Anybody? I'm sure you guys have seen some churches that have security. I know some of the churches that I've belonged to and went to, they have armed security, armed police, normally in plain clothes. So unfortunately, that's what it's come down to nowadays. If anybody's interested in wanting to hear some more information or getting a presentation, I'm just like Mr. Adams here. We could talk about this all day, and that's something that you could what if all day, but if it's something that you just want us to come into your building and say, can you give me some safety tips on what to do? I know some of the schools have put just small little barricades in their doors. They've made, like buckets with supplies in them, basic supplies, because when this type of stuff happens, you never know how long you're going to be trapped inside, especially if it would happen to the other side of the building or something like that. So there's a lot of good information that we teach, and this is something that we do quite a bit. So like I said, unfortunately, it is come to this point to where we are teaching it like a fire drill, or is it something that we can have a plan in place and to go off of? So, any questions? Yes, sir.
What are the, like, the laws or whatever, for somebody said, you know, I concealed carry thing, can they come into the church as long as they keep it outside, or they all, is that?
Unless you
okay
have,
to do?
unless you have the sign that says permits concealed carry, it's a private place. So they can conceal carry, you know, most people do in churches, or some people do in churches, shouldn't say most, but unless there's a sign that prevents them from doing that, then they'll carry in churches or in, you've seen the signs outside businesses and stuff like that.
What about, do you think it's a good idea, like when their services start, to like lock the doors?
Well, see, that's what we would get into without knowing your building. You know what I mean? Without me going into your building and say, you know, how many exits do you have? How many entrances do you have? It could be. I know a lot of the schools, they lock their doors. The classrooms are locked. So you go in there, you can't see in the windows, and you can't get in the classroom unless somebody comes out.
So you would come out to the church and?
Sure, yeah, that's one of the things that we do is if you want this presentation, you get a hold of me or Deputy Chief Marty Grove. I know a lot of you know him. He does it as well. We can tag team it. We can come out and talk to the staff and give you good tips on what to do and where to exit and where to go. And
In the vein of locking your doors, I would ask that you work with the professionals when you look at how you want to do that. A lot of, in schools, when you lock the doors, you still have panic hardware to go out. A lot of older church buildings, the way they lock their door may be to throw a deadbolt with a key. And then the people would be locked in when the building catches on fire. You know, we've dealt with that in some schools. In some areas, they've come up with hammers and wedges, and they wedge doors shut so that people can't get in, but then they're also trapped in their room. And we've dealt with a lot of that in the schools already. So work with your law enforcement officers, work with your fire professionals when you do want to make those plans.
And that's definitely a part of the plan that I would do. I would, you know, get an opinion from both sides, the fire side, fire safety side, and then from our, you know, threat assessment side as well.
Do you have a number that people will call you at, or?
911. No,
The non-emergency number.
You can call the police department. I don't have my cards with me. I'm actually.
It's 778-2027. 778-2027. You'll get the operator, or you'll get the little sign, number 1 is this, number 2 is that. Just follow it, and they'll direct you to whoever you gotta go to, and just let them know what you need, and they will get you to the right person.
Well, I think it'd be a great thing for any church.
Right.
Sure. And just like some of these older buildings, I don't know what your churches are working with, but some of these buildings, the windows and stuff don't open. And, you know, that's something that I've worked with this building with, and there's a lot of safety concerns there. But then you start wondering, you know, how much money we're going to put into this, because you can spend, you know, whatever you want to spend on this stuff. But I think just having basic knowledge of this and what to do, and think about what to do when something like this happens, and having a plan in place is the biggest thing we'd like to discuss. So.
Is there any other questions, comments, concerns? So no, please, go on, go ahead.
You guys said something about, you know, ask for opinions, and something was said a minute ago about the sign at the front door about concealed carry. What's your opinion on that? How stupid that? To me, that's awful stupid. You're telling who, don't come in here with a gun. Well, all the good people, and who's that saying to the person that wants to do evil?
I guess
He sees the sign there. Hey, nobody's got a gun in it. How? Why did they do that?
We can, you could debate that all day with whoever you wanted to, but I'll leave that up to you guys and your opinions. But
The only person that come to me with a concern was they had somebody coming into their business with open carry, you know, with their gun on their outside their belt, and it was making their other customers very uncomfortable. That's not illegal in the state of Ohio.
right?
not illegal in most places in the state of Ohio. And what that business decided to do was just to ban all handguns inside their business as the reaction to that, because it was easier than trying to say, well, you're not allowed to open carry, but you can conceal carry, and there are some knee-jerk reactions like that take place because people aren't responsible in the way they carry. Carry is not my forte. I know you have to be very careful politically of what you say, and I'm pretty passionate about it too. But yeah, responsible citizens don't open carry to church.
Yeah.
You know, you can conceal carry and keep that concealed. And no, when you're concealed carrying properly, no one else should know. You know, the people in the church, if you have a security team, should all be aware of who is.
Correct.
But
one of the biggest things that when I conceal carry, I don't want people to know that I'm concealed carry. I don't want that attention. And I think the majority of the population who does conceal carry expect that as well. They don't want to draw attention to themselves and stuff like that. You will have occasions where people like that attention, but and want to push the envelope. But I think around here we've got it pretty good. We've got a lot of sensible people with concealed carry that know the laws and stuff like that. So we haven't had any issues with concealed carry permit holders.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? So as you take these back to your churches and you talk to your people about it, if that's what you wish, or as you're going over the fire check and you see something in your churches that doesn't look right, we have Chief Adams here and we have Officer Walters that you can get a hold of, and they will gladly come to your churches or your places and help you work out whatever it is that you need to resolve. So again, let's give a hand of applause for all of everything that they do. And so as we would go on, and you look at your agenda, you would see that we are on the community reports now. And on the community reports, the first thing that you see is the Munch Bunch. I spoke to our coordinator of our Munch Bunch in our church, and she let me know, Sister Kathy Brandon let me know that as of the January meeting till now, they had 1 day of packing, which they packed 270 bags per week for a 2-week total of 540 bags. She also wanted, and a lot of times I asked her, do you need any help? Do you need any donations? Well, of course, they're not going to turn down money, okay, because it all goes to help these young kids. But she had let me know that she has had such a wonderful support from the community. She just gave me a list, Girl Scouts and all kinds of different agencies and organizations that would come and help and move, that she's pretty much booked up till next year as far as health is concerned. But she did make the request for me to let you know, if you guys still want to help pack, for like next year, you can get a hold of her and she'll make sure she writes you down so that your church or your organization can help and be a part of this. So I'm very thankful that the community has stepped up. I'm very thankful that the churches have come a part of this. Now, as I stated, she's got the people, but just to let you know, our next packing date is February 11th at the business that they take care of, which Isaiah Industries. Okay, is there any questions about the Munch Bunch? All right. As you see, the next thing on our list is the cold shelters, and as you were here last month, you found out that we had to sadly announce that the cold shelter had closed down. The reason why that we still have this on our agenda is because I want to reiterate to you, in case you get somebody to come in from the cold, that you don't have that option as a cold shelter right now, and therefore you might want to think about how you want to help that person. And I'm sure if any of you guys would ever get the burden of the passion saying, hey, I don't want this to die and I think I can help spark it, whatever, you can always get with Wilma or Kathy when you're at the Duffy Center, and if it seems like it'll work, I'm sure they'll help along with that. So do we have any questions about the cold shelter? All right, well that takes care of our community reports. We'll go on, and as we go on, the first thing that you see on the old business is the Good Friday service. And on the Good Friday service, Brother Todd had given me a text message. He says, "I hope this note finds you well. I know you have called to follow up on the PAC Good Friday location. I'm happy to confirm that Grace United will host this year's service. I spoke today with Brother Gene Phelps, who also mentioned that you, meaning myself, had called him about this matter last week. Apparently Grace has not hosted this event for the last 6 years or so, and Gene is so glad that it will be returning there. Hope the planning group is on board and moving ahead with further focus on the work." And then he further went on by saying to me, "Another note to add to your conversation when you meet tonight, Grace United Methodist Church does not have an organ or what might be considered a traditional sanctuary. It is much more modern and is to set up for a praise band to lead music. I am told that the risers can be put in for a choir to stand upon, in keeping with the tradition of forming a community choir for that event. The person you would want it to talk to regarding details of the sanctuary and how this may impact the type of service that the planning team comes up with is Paula Nicholas. She can be reached at Grace United Methodist Church. I think the last 4 numbers of her direct line there are 8232. And he ends up by saying, "I'm glad that Grace United will be hosting a service this year, and I feel that the different layout of the sanctuary will result in a different type of service, perhaps than in the previous years. Always a good thing to refresh our worship." So as you can tell, we now have a location for this year's Good Friday service. Good Friday service is dated April 10th. And as you can tell by the conversation that I have with him, Brother Todd is willing to assist in any way to help progress this, but as far as actually heading up committee or something, this is something that he has kind of showed he wanted to be in the foreground more than up front. So there is a need when we decide to do this to have a committee started. So if any of the churches or pastor or lay minister or anybody that wishes want to step up and help with this Good Friday service, we now have a location. There are very many helpful people that have done the Good Friday service many, many times. Sister Member Holman, for example, has been in many of the committees and is very quite extensively knowledge in the Good Friday service. So you do have means in which that you can lean on people to help this. So with that being stated, is there any questions or comments or concerns about the Good Friday service? Okay, so let's move on. The next one is the National Day of Prayer, which is on May 7th, 2020. And if you remember last meeting, Brother Stephen Smiley, I hope I said that right, is the chairperson of this year's National Day of Prayer, which is dated for May 7th, 2020. He had spoke about how he has need for singers and for speakers. I tried to get a hold of him yesterday and was not able to do so. I don't know if there's anything that is a follow-up. I do know that after the meeting he stated he wanted to talk to Brittany Van Horn so that they could set a time to have the National Day Prayer at the fountain at the City Hall, and I'm sure she's done that, but I don't have any official confirmation of that. So we're kind of right now basically where we were last month as far as information is concerned. So do we have any comments or questions pertaining to that? All right, well then I want to give you, in case you want to help or talk to him, I would like to give you Brother Stephen's phone number. It is 937-214-4986. 937-214-4986. And if you wish to be a part of the National Day of Prayer, please give him a call. All right, so we'll move on to our next one. The next one is the baccalaureate service. And Brother Mike, I'm going to kind of let you speak, because I know that last month, I was going off Brother Todd's information, which was a little not complete, and thank you for correcting the time, so I'm going to let you kind of speak on that.
Well, I don't know anything.
Okay.
Other than the date, I really don't know anything.
Was, when you guys had that conversation, that meeting, in which the date was kind of set, was there any questions or concerns that you wanted to address that maybe you could let us know and we might be able to help with?
As far as we know, we're providing the church and Todd's taking care of the program.
Okay, all right. I do know that the school is already being involved in this as far as, finding out the dates and getting things, so as the 17th comes up, I know that we're going to be getting closer, and I know that they're going to be needing a committee. So, Brother Mike, is it all right with you if somebody wants to be involved in this, that they can give you a call? Would that be a problem?
I thought Todd was.
We'll go to Todd? Okay.
I thought he was heading that.
Well, then let me give you Brother Todd Allen's phone number. Gotta love those.
Sometimes.
Should be.
1 minutes?
Yeah,
Let me see.
there's 7730564.
Yeah, that was the West, okay, so thank you. That's the church's phone number. It's the Westminster Presbyterian Church's number, which is like Brother Larry said, 937-773-0564, and ask for Brother Todd. So if you wish to be a part of the baccalaureate, you would want to call the Westminster Presbyterian Church to speak to Brother Allen. Do we have any more questions or concerns about the baccalaureate service? Okay, so let's move on to the next thing, which is our annual dinner and our Hero of Faith reward. And I again want to thank St. John's for being willing to step up and do this year's PAC dinner, and Sister Sally, from the last time that we spoke, is there anything that we need to know about, or are we still kind of same on that part?
Well, we're still talking about doing a dinner, we're planning the menu, and I know we have to RSVP, we have a better idea. We're gonna charge, a small amount for dinner. We're checking that, we just kind of have to figure out a better idea of what to expect as far as people. I don't know if there's an average, anybody knows an event, how many people usually come? I know the RSVP, but we're 2 weeks out. So
I think we had 20 last year, 20. Isn't that about right?
Yeah, and then there's been more or less. I mean, it depends upon the year and people come. That's why the RSVP is very important.
Right,
It gives you an idea of
all
those.
figure before we got RSVP.
And you can set the RSVP date out earlier.
Yeah.
If you wanted 3 weeks or a month, and then a final date, a month to give you an estimate, and then a final date. You could do that. It's up to you. It's up to you.
So is there any questions, comments, concerns for the annual PAC dinner?
Is there a time, a set time? Is it 6 o'clock or is that normally when it is?
It was normally 6, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or earlier.
Yeah.
Or
Normally
earlier?
6.
No,
No, an hour earlier than our normal
then our
PAC.
7. Yeah, then our 7.
Anything else? Okay, well, let's, as we move on, we're going to talk about the other part. As we know, every year, we have the honor to do the Heroes of Faith Award, where we've honored many ministers here and gone home, lay people, sisters, brothers, and we're coming up again for this year. Last year, we honored Brother Larry Butt from Young Life. So we're coming up this year to start the next round. Next month is the month that we take the nominees. So I'm asking, as I have before, to pray upon if you know anybody that you feel deserves to be honored with this award. Just write something small about what they have done and what they have offered and things like that. And then as we gather them the following month of April, we will come around with a voting bulletin, and then we will vote for that person. And then in May, when we have the dinner, they will be honored with the award. So please think about who you would like to PAC and to honor who's ever done great things for our city. Is there any questions about that? Okay, so let's move on. The next thing that we will be talking about is the harvest party. Real short, we used to do what's called trunk or treat. We've done it out there at the mall. We've done it out there in the city there, and it was a request on one of our meetings, why don't we try something different, and it was agreed upon. And Brother Larry and Sister Crystal Hine has graciously said that they would said that they would.
He did it.
He volunteered you, right? Okay.
Yes.
That they would oversee the harvest party. Sister Crystal last month gave us a list. Did you bring it?
No, you forgot it.
Okay. Bring us a list of stuff that we would be able to do. If your church wanted to be a part of it and they wanted something specific to do, you wrote on it, and I mentioned that because you wrote your church to do whatever it is you do, you're going to be part of the committee because you're going to be talking about your part and how you want to implement it with the harvest party. So what we'll do, Crystal, is that if anybody here wants to be a part of the harvest party that didn't write anything down last month, get with Sister Crystal, like say I want to be part of it, and then she can let you know what is available still, and then you guys can choose from that. I'm going to go ahead and give them your numbers for that.
He's at work all day, so mine's the best one to
Call. So you want them to call you, Sister Crystal?
Yes.
My Sister Crystal's number, and she can correct me if I'm incorrect, is area code 260-226-2952. Area code 260-226-2952. Is there any questions or comments pertaining to the harvest party?
Do you have a date?
We do not. We're looking sometime in the month of October, because like we don't want to do Halloween, but we do want to do fall, so definitely want to stick with the month of October. Maybe 2 weeks before Halloween, so that the kids can wear their costumes if they want to, but no date is set yet.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Sister Crystal. And we'll go on to our next one, which is the nominating committee. Now, the nominating committee is a committee that we have brought together because, as you can tell on the executive board, we are one person short. As the bylaws usually progress, is that you have a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasury. And your vice president is supposed to follow after the president. And then the president becomes a past president, and then there's supposed to be somebody that's supposed to be up behind them, and it rotates every year. And it's supposed to be written where it's pastor, layperson, pastor, layperson. Because there was some concerns and some transitions going on at that time, we changed the bylaws so that one person can hold the presidency longer than one term, or that they can, whether it be a pastor or a layperson, that person can hold it longer underneath their title, layperson, pastor. So we had decided to and voted to have a nominating committee, which Marilyn Holtman is the one that I asked if she would head it up. And as you guys know, here lately she's been having a lot of sicknesses, and her husband was sick. Her husband's doing a whole lot better. The surgery and everything was a great success. She told me we're looking about 2 or 3 weeks, and he should be out doing what he needs to do. But right now, Sister Marilyn has to stay at home and help take care of him. They have home nursing coming in and things like that. But she want to let you guys know she's doing very well. back on the 17th, she texted me, "Hi Paul, Dave is doing very well, has been there, 5-star patient at Miami Valley Hospital, is out of intensive care and will be coming home on Sunday. So thanks for prayers." So that was the 17th, and he's progressively doing better. All right, I had asked Marilyn, as I had expressed to you last month, that there had been some people that had stepped up and said they'd be part of the committee. And I had asked her what the names was, and I told you last month I didn't have the names, so I finally got them. Is it okay for me to say them? Okay. So she has 2 people as of right now. She says, "I have asked Sister Sandy Kearns and Pastor Don Wells, and they both have said that they would agree to do that." So there's, and like I also said last month, she's kind of want to have like 3 pastors and 2 lay people in the committee to help vote the next vice president or so forth. And then once we got the vice president, I would sit in as president and have him follow up behind me. So if anybody wishes to be a part of the nominating committee, you're more than welcome to be a part of it. And that you can call Marilyn, and her number is 937-367-7138, 937-367-7138. So if you wish to be a part of the nominating committee, please give her a call. I'm sure she would gladly accept to be a part of the nominating committee. Any questions or concerns about the nominating committee? All right, so the next thing that we're going to look up is the 10 Commandment Monuments, which we kind of tagged it Ron Miller project. Just to, but, you know, that's fine. Last month, I was supposed to, prior to that, to have a meeting with a lawyer. Like I explained, they didn't get a hold of it. So I had, like I said, back in December, I wanted people to pray because come January we were going to have a meeting and talk about it, and we did. And the 2 main concerns that came up in the meeting was, number 1, are we legally liable for handling the money? And the second thing that was asked is, how do we handle any overreach or underreach of the targeted amount of money that we will be getting through our donations and stuff? So I had a meeting, I said that I scheduled a meeting Tuesday after the PAC meeting, and I did go speak to our lawyer, Dustin Davis, and I had brought up those concerns to him, and this is what he told me. First question was, are we legally liable for handling the money? The answer is no. The donations are going to and are signed for the monument, not PAC. It will go in account specifically assigned for the monument and specifically named. So that way, the only people who's handling the money would be Sister Gloria the Treasurer, myself, because if it would be over a certain amount, I would need to sign 2 signatures, because our bylaw said anything over $1,000 needs 2 signatures. That's why I would be involved with that transition. And then, of course, it would be given to Ron, because he would be using that money for whatever purpose it would be deemed for, okay? Like, for example, if you need to pay for the concrete to be poured, you know, that money would be given to you to take care of it. Or we can pay.
Can it be wrote directly to the?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, I prefer that than.
Well, I mean, if you come to us and say, Paul, I need to have this money because I got to do it. Well, you know, it's for the monument. It was donated to it. Therefore, we would pull the money out and probably sign it to you, because you, or if you have a company you want to sign it to, it would be signed to that company, and the check would be given to you, and therefore you would go take care of your business. Okay? So those would be the only people that would be handling the money. Now, the only thing, he kind of smirked about this. He says, the only thing that we would most likely be seen as being involved is that we agree with Brother Ron, and therefore we agree with what he's doing, and therefore we're partnering up with him. That's the only way it's going to be seen by PAC being involved. That, you know, we as PAC, we agree to what he's doing, and we're being a part of his project. Okay? That's how they're going to look at PAC. Okay? They're not going to look at us as the money laundry person, okay? So, and he did point out to me, he wanted me to make sure, because he said he does realize, he doesn't understand why people feel this way, but he does realize that there are people that get highly concerned. He said because of what it's being used for and how it's being used for, there isn't anybody that can come back and sue PAC for anything. There's so many laws and stuff right there to protect PAC for, because it is a religious, and because it's on a church property, and because that nobody, he said they'd be wasting money. They'd be spending too much money just to fight something that he's going to win. So he wanted me to reassure PAC 100% that there was no way any liability would come back on anything pertaining to this because of why it's being, how it's being done and why it's being used. So, and he kind of chuckled a little. He said, it'd be nothing. I think, okay, I'll let them know that it's not a big deal. So, with that being stated, is there any question about that part that I spoke to him about? Any concerns? Okay, so the next question that was asked to him was, how do we handle overreach or underreach of the money? I know that it was asked by Linda last month about how much and targeted what you were trying to do, and you was expressing about the aspect of the donations and such. Okay, so when I asked, well, what if there was an over amount of what was you wanted to meet, or whether it was under the amount? Well, the overreach, the underreach was simple. He said, we can extend the time that we want to reach the goal. Like if we haven't reached the goal yet, we could extend it. Okay? Which, from talking to Brother Ron, I don't see this next one being an option, but if it just looked like it's not going to happen, and we had that money there and it doesn't reach the goal, because of the way that we're going to be handling the bookkeeping, you know, we're going to have the names and the addresses and where it came from and things like that. By our goal or our wish, we could return it back to them. Okay, so, but like I said, I don't see that happening. Now the overage, he said that we could use it for like extra landscaping, we could use it for having maintenance or repairs, we could use it for, you know, just as long as that money is being used for the purpose of the monument. So, yes.
I just have to think, okay, let's say we get over, and we get way over. And yeah, I know I'm a dreamer, but what if we got enough for another monument somewhere else, other than what I've stated already as Grace United Methodist? What
Well,
if, I'm just saying, what
since
if,
PAC's involved with the account stuff, you come to us and say, hey, you know, we got this opportunity to go to this other place and
do another monument?
turn on the monument,
Okay.
and then, you know, I
I
don't...
just didn't want to be tied to.
No, there will be no time to anything. So is there any questions about overage or underage? Now, I know from the last meeting that when I asked the question, is there anybody here that would have a problem having the Ten Commandments placed out there at Grace United Methodist Church, I didn't get any negative response from anybody. Everybody thought it was a great idea to be able to take it out to Grace United Methodist Church and put the Ten Commandments there. So I had asked the questions, I had got the concerns, I went to the lawyer, I presented to him, he answered my questions, and I answered it back to you. So, in all fairness now, since I've asked people to pray about it and we've heard, unless somebody, and I do wish you to speak up, unless somebody objects to this, I would like to make a motion to see if PAC is okay to open an account. It'll be under the name that you tag your project, that we would have Sister Gloria Stonelock, who has agreed to do this. We would take very specific bookkeeping, and that we would keep the money in, and like I said, the only people that would be handling the money would be the ones that I had mentioned. With Brother Ron, what we would do to answer some of the questions you had asked me earlier is that you and the executive board would come together on a date and we would go over certain specific requests that you have, and we would come to a decision. But anyway, so I'd like to have a motion to accept Ron's request for PAC to be partnering with Ron's Ten Commandment Monument Project and be the one to oversee where the donations come in and go out. And it can't be wrong in motion it. Can I have a motion for that, please?
Yeah.
Larry, can I have Kathy second it? All right. All in favor for this to happen, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? We will oversee the money in account for you. Okay,
Thanks.
you're very
I
welcome.
mean,
All right, so with that, let's move on. We will be going and talking about the Welcome Committee. I had to cancel last month due to personal priorities that I had to address. So we will reschedule a meeting on February 27th at 7 p.m. at my new, not mine personally, but at our new church that we're going to be having. Steve, just so that you know what I'm talking about, a Welcome Committee is a committee that we have formed to go out to the different churches and stuff and promote what PAC is and what we stand for, so to encourage them to want to come and be a part of the committee. Okay, so, and if anybody here over the stuff that we have talked about don't know what it is and are interested, please you talk to me afterwards and I will explain what these things are. So is there any questions about the Welcome Committee? Okay. Well, lastly, it's just the committee for the old business. That's just a committee where I just want to say, right now we need a Good Friday committee. We need a National Day of Prayer committee. We need a baccalaureate committee. We need a harvest party committee. We have a nominated committee that's already going about and we might have more people. So if any of these events that you want to be a part of, please let the person know who's in charge of it that you wish to be a part of it, and we'll make it be one of the best ones we have every year, better than the one before. So with that, is there any questions about that last comment? Okay, so the next thing is our new business. Now, I always need to put this out there. New business is business that takes and affects PAC itself, or PAC will be getting involved with, and then needs to have the community be aware of it. If you have anything personal, like for your church, or for yourself, or you have prayer requests, we have what's called the round table, which is at the end of the meeting, which gives you the opportunity to let everybody here know what it is. So, and Brother Steve, I'll mention, I'll start it for you. So, is there any new business that you wish to bring forth to the PAC meeting? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, I have one that I would like to bring to PAC, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce this right. I had gotten an email from Brother Steve Shukat. He is the president of the Temple Anshi Emeth, which is the Jewish temple right across the street from Westminster Church. He opens up, which I'll give him a chance to talk, he opens up his church for churches that are needing a place to stay. And the reason why I bring that up is, remember, right, the Abundant Life Baptist Church stayed there for a while, and because of the graciousness of what the temple gave them, they were able to combine with another Baptist church, and now they have a thriving church. So Brother Steve emailed me and asked if he could speak to PAC about this, and I'll turn it over to you.
And so, as Paul has mentioned, we are a Jewish temple. We've been in the Piqua community for 165 years. We are there on Caldwell. And two reasons. The second reason, if it's okay, is each year we do a little bit of an outreach to the community where our rabbi that services our temple does a teaching program for the community. Many people, some people here may have visited at that time. I've got little flyers for that event, so if you guys can take a second and pass these out. It's going to be on March the 7th, so I don't know if I have enough, but if you could inform your congregations about it, that would be wonderful. It's just an opportunity for people to hear a little bit about Judaism and what our temple does. Then back to the main reason, we have a synagogue, a temple there on Coldwell. It has a sanctuary area up front, and then a fellowship hall in the back. Has a kitchen and restrooms. And what we had done is we were in an agreement with Abundant Life for about 5 years, I believe. And that worked out very well, and they ended up leaving and joining another Baptist church congregation and continued to grow. And that left, a little bit of a hole for us. We're a very small congregation, being in this area. We service Miami County, Shelby County, and Darke County. And and with the Jewish faith, we have our services on Friday night or Saturday morning. So it tended to work very well to incorporate with a church having their services often either Wednesdays or Thursdays and then on Sundays. So just if there is anyone that knows of a very small congregation that is trying to continue to grow, it tends to be a great relationship, and we can coordinate. I just wanted to get the word out and also come and talk about the event that we're having on the 7th. So thank you very much.
Very welcome. Does anybody have any questions for Brother Steve? No? Okay. Well, before we start the roundtable, I do want to remind you guys that our next meeting will be March 9th. We will be meeting at Brother Larry Lutz's church over there on Bull Avenue, Piqua Church of the Brethren. We will be having a triple header here. We'll be having AJ Ganger from Channel 5, which I want to thank him on
It's
view.
his intern, James. Sorry, I'm his intern.
No, I meant AJ from Channel 5.
Yeah, but I'm his intern.
Okay.
I'm not
This is
AJ.
intern James. I didn't mean to call him AJ.
It's
but
okay.
Him and AJ and another one help technically film these kind of things. So he will be here to talk about Channel 5 and what they have to offer. We're also going to be having Piqua Day Call's Media Director Becky Smith and their advertising representative Chris McDonald. Both ladies will be here to talk about the Piqua Day Call. And I'm going to be lucky enough to have Peter Bath, who is from Kettering Hospital. He's part of the mission directory. He has the ability to help people, to teach them to counsel, and there's other packages that he helps with the chaplain. He will be also here to discuss about what Kettering has to offer for our community. So we have a triple header on that day, and a lot of the stuff that we discussed has pretty much been answered, so our agenda should be smaller to fit that, because I don't want to keep you here too long. But I just want to point that out, that on that day, Brother Larry will be at your church, and we'll be having these 3 representatives, and they'll be very informative. Please come and invite other people to come. I'm sure they want to know how they can advertise and promote things.